and Geraldine Williams.
I said, "You've lost your mind." And she said, "No." So she started quoting some facts and figures, and I said, "Well, yeah, it does look like it could be done. So who you got in mind?"
It was Gene Capers who in 1965 began a campaign to draft me to run for mayor. And I'm in Columbus in the legislature, safely ensconced and happy, enjoying legislative life and looking forward, even preliminarily, to the United States Congress. However, that was really what began to put it on my mind.
Stokes understood that winning the election was a matter of numbers, and he could get the number of votes he needed only if there was a heavy turnout in the black neighborhoods. But first, the black community had to be convinced he could win.
Much of the success of what we were doing was getting folk to believe, and that had to come from one man. That was Carl Stokes. And here's a guy who didn't think like the rest of us thought, that we're not ready, it's not time for this, we don't know whether it'll work. No, here's a guy that said it will work, I know it'll work, I know it'll work, you guys get behind me and we get it done.
Ralph Locher, 87667. Stokes, 85674.
Their 1965 effort fell short when Carl Stokes, running as an independent, was narrowly defeated by Ralph Locher. Stokes lost by a mere 2,000 votes, but made believers of black voters and black politicians alike.
It was believed that he could have won against Ralph Locher in 1965 had there been more blacks registered and had there been a higher turnout. So the second effort was underway with this massive voter registration campaign throughout the city of Cleveland, sponsored mostly by the black ministers at the time.
The 1967 Stokes campaign relied heavily on neighborhood churches to mobilize voters. The black ministers orchestrated their efforts.
We made absolutely sure that there was a registration committee in every church. We made absolutely sure that we enlisted and got every minister aboard, every pastor aboard, and we were all preaching the same thing from our pulpits. We gotta believe, we can do it, this will make a difference, and it just went like wildfire.
Stokes won the Democratic primary in May of 1967. He would face Seth Taft, his Republican opponent, in the November general election for mayor. To win, Stokes needed a solid black base. It was essential that every eligible person in the African American community be registered to vote and go to the polls on Election Day.
Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time.
4 years earlier, Martin Luther King Jr. led over 200,000 peaceful demonstrators to Washington, D.C. The strength of their unified voices spurred the passage of the Voting Rights Act. Martin Luther King encouraged blacks to vote their way to economic power and relentlessly pursued his dream. And so it was only natural that he came to Cleveland to join the Stokes effort. King brought workers, financial resources, and the inspiration needed to register black voters. He shunned the spotlight, deferring to Carl Stokes.
Carl said it was very important for Martin not to be thrust forward as the power behind the throne, because if he were viewed as the manipulator of Carl Stokes, then obviously we were not going to get it done. It had to be an indigenous effort. Whatever percentage of white votes that we were going to get were going to be denied us if they had felt that there were carpetbaggers, if there were outside interests manipulating and telling us what to do.
In 1967, 62% of Cleveland's population was white. In addition to his unified black support, Stokes needed a respectable number of white West Side voters to win the election. He skillfully courted them.
He spent a lot of time on the West Side. His campaign workers on the West Side managed to set up a lot of functions which he attended, and he didn't hesitate to appear over there. He did more side. He assumed that he already had those votes, and that turned out to be a safe assumption.
It was a bold move. Never before had a black politician actively sought the support of the white vote.
I think history would record that he was the forerunner. He was the one that started the trend. He knew how to, his legacy was that he knew how to put together a majority with a minority in order to get elected. And he's very skillful at doing that.
Stokes successfully garnered the support he needed, won the endorsement of the city's newspapers, and then made history when voters elected him the first black mayor to take office in a major American city.
I think when I realized that we had made history was the night that he was elected, because I broke down in tears and said, we've just beat a machine, which doesn't happen. I cried all over the place.
Carl Stokes, the Mayor and the Milestone, is brought to you by Ohio Bell, an Ameritech company.
Feelings never change, it's like time stands still. And everything we share comes from the heart. You know just what to say, so you read my mind. Good friends are never far apart. All the good times and the tears ran on up through all the years.
A phone call can make a friend feel good. Call a friend.
We have a lot of pride in Cleveland, a frontier village in 1796. We've adapted to changing times and hard times. Today, we're truly one of this nation's great producers. Employment, investment, entrepreneurship, and productivity are all rising. And it is you, our own people in factories and farms, who make it happen. We and WJW-TV salute you, because making it in America starts here in Cleveland.
The Stokes victory forever changed the political landscape of Cleveland and the entire country. For generations of African Americans who followed, he proved that an exceptional candidate could transcend the color barrier, even here in a city where white voters outnumbered blacks 2-1.
The very fact that you're black doesn't mean that you're going to get a rejection from white America. If you understand the country, and if you understand people, and if yours is the kind of personality and abilities and qualifications that can of itself create this exception to the general rule, it happens.
I need, and I respectfully request, and I pray for the help of everyone in this community, and also may God share in these awesome tasks which we are about to undertake. Thank you very much.
Carl was elected on Tuesday, November 7th. Less than a week later, he took office, and everyone made demands on the new mayor.
This was a first. All of a sudden, particularly the black people who knew that they'd been shut out all of their years, and now Carl has gotten elected. It's their turn. And when they said they turned, they don't mean like 6 months from now or a year from now. I mean, when I took office, they wanted to see it happen then, next day, and they were there. And I was overwhelmed by them. And now, of course, then so many in the white community, now what they wanted me to do was correct the things that Loker or Celebrezzi or Lausche even hadn't done over the year. They want me to perform. Okay, we gave you the chance, let's see you perform up here, right? And of course, the media in general, they wanted to see magic.
I thought he dealt extremely well with the media. I mean, he never ever lost that effervescence, and I think he enjoyed the media. I think he enjoyed the one-on-one and the rapport between the media and himself. The only problem was that as he got more and more into the problems of the city and trying to find those solutions that everyone wanted him to find, you could tell the pressure was really on him.
Stokes' first leadership test came when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April 1968. Carl suffered the loss of a close friend, and he faced the challenge of keeping Cleveland calm while other major cities erupted in riots. Peace prevailed, and he proved to be, as the whites had hoped, an insurance policy against black violence.
All the black areas in most of the big cities had riots. Cleveland did not. Carl was able to forestall that by making himself very visible in the black community and appealing for peace and calm, which he achieved.
With a strong vote of confidence behind him, Stokes initiated the Cleveland Now campaign. The 10-year, $1.5 billion plan called for revitalization of the city, funded by federal, state, and local dollars. Everyone, from large companies to small school children, enthusiastically raised money for the project. The Stokes administration faced its fair share of obstacles: resistance to reform by the police department, fights with city council, racial prejudice, and loss of population and tax revenue. But the most serious crisis to face the mayor unfolded in Glenville on July 23, 1968. An armed gang led by Ahmed Evans opened fire on police, killing 3 and wounding 12. Racial tension erupted. Carl Stokes gathered 100 of the city's black leaders to deal with the emergency. Order was quickly restored, but the incident left a scar on the city and sadness in the mayor's heart.
That must have been a terrible moment for you, though, as mayor of
when
the
they
city.
called me on the phone and say, a policeman is down, they're shooting at one another. I mean, no other mayor in the United States then or since has had to have that said to him.
So that despite our
Often overshadowed by this tragedy are the many accomplishments achieved under the leadership of Carl Stokes. First and foremost, he opened the doors of City Hall to African Americans. For the first time, people of color were able to share in the responsibilities and rewards of city government.
It is my very deep, sincere, personal and public pleasure to announce that the new law director for the city of Cleveland, our chief lawyer, will be Judge Paul D. White. Judge White, if you'd come up here.
First thing that I wanted to do was open up government. And that's what I did. I gave black people here an opportunity to participate in their government and to help to run it and to have the opportunity to demonstrate their competency to be the middle managers of the government of this city. And today, there are still some of them still remaining who no one now ever thinks about the fact that at one point, when I came into office, you didn't even have a black commissioner.
He told the vendors and suppliers, companies doing business with the city, you don't hire enough black people, therefore you don't qualify for city contracts, and they begin hiring people. He told the law firms, if you're going to come to talk to me, you bring some black lawyers with you, and suddenly the major law firms started hiring black lawyers. And I just think that in this went on and on, he opened up many, many doors that had just been closed up until that time.
Carl Stokes hired or promoted over 260 African Americans in City Hall. His administration created 5,000 new jobs, appropriated $5 million to community programs, built police and fire stations, implemented a $6.5 million police communications system, and signed an unprecedented labor agreement with city workers.
The man was concerned about the economic structure. He was concerned about social problems, and one of his great achievements, as I know them, is in the area of housing.
Together, we built more housing, both in the public sector and in the private sector, than had been built in the 30 years prior to my coming into office, and remains the most housing ever built, even in the 20 or more years I have been out of office.
There was no track record for black people. So he had to be the leader for, not just for the city of Cleveland in its municipal affairs, but he had to be the leader for 250,000 black people saying, look, we have elected you, lead us to the promised land.
Feelings never change, like time stands still. And everything we share comes from the heart. You know just what to say, so you read my mind. Good friends are never far apart. All the good times and the tears ran on up through all the years.
A phone call can make a friend feel good. Call a friend.
We had sex.
I took it as that we were going to start dating or whatever.
I turned over, like that.
So you decided, you felt sorry for her, so in the merciful man that you are, you decided to have sex with her.
Is it mercy or merciless to have sex with someone you feel sorry for?
Did you ever really have an intention of seeing Levita again?
Mercy Sex on the next Montel Williams show.
Tomorrow morning at 9 on TV8.
The 1967 election was a victory not only for Carl Stokes locally, but a victory for African Americans nationally. It legitimized the concept of black power and was a pivotal point in the evolution of black politics. African American politicians across the country copied the Stokes campaign model.
Give him a big round of applause. Mayor Richard Hatcher.
Richard Hatcher was an aspiring politician who came to Cleveland in 1965 to study the Stokes campaign. He applied the same Stokes strategies in his mayoral bid. Hatcher was elected the first black mayor of Gary, Indiana in 1967 and took office several months after Carl Stokes.
Carl Stokes really provided the remedy, the recipe, the way to actually get it done. Sit down, look at the numbers, look at what's happening, look at migration, look at urbanization, those kinds of things, and really plan well and see that you can do it. Once you see that you can do it, if it can be done on paper, it can be done in pragmatics and reality and practicality.
Carl Stokes counseled Atlanta's Maynard Jackson in his 1969 campaign. When Jackson took office as Atlanta's first black mayor, Stokes sent his law director, Clarence James, to help design the new city charter that Jackson successfully introduced. Ken Gibson, a young politician from New Jersey, sought the help of Carl Stokes. Gibson became Newark's first black mayor in 1970. Tom Bradley of Los Angeles followed Carl Stokes' blueprint to capture the white and Hispanic votes in his successful 1973 mayoral campaign.
How do you cross over and take the block of votes that you have and expand that to utilize white votes and to capture power that you hadn't had before? And that's what Carl Stokes' election did, not only in the city of Cleveland, but throughout the country.
Carl Stokes became the role model for African American politicians everywhere. He shared his knowledge with them, generating hope and lifting their aspirations.
All over the country, what they wanted to know was, now the civil rights movement is over, this is a new politics. How do we do it? And so I went and I helped them and told them that there was literally almost no limit. And I didn't know then, and I don't know today, any limit to what a black man or woman can do if he or she wants to do it in politics.
I am in politics today because of Carl Stokes. I was 14 years old when he ran in 1967. I remember coming home, seeing him on TV, having heard his name, and as I got a little older, his campaign became the first campaign that I ever worked on. I was so taken with him at that age that became my goal. And many people sometimes have questioned me, but for
26 years, I followed that pursuit based on what I saw from Carl Stokes when I was a very young boy.
Carl Stokes served 2 terms as the mayor of Cleveland. In April 1971, he announced he would not seek re-election. But the impact of his trailblazing efforts are reflected throughout American government today. Currently, there are 338 African-American mayors presiding over U.S. cities. 39 African-Americans reside in the U.S. House of Congress, and 1 African-American, Carol Mosley Braun from Illinois, in the U.S. Senate. In legislatures across the nation, there are 393 African-Americans in state houses and 119 in state senates. Nationally, there are 7,552 African-Americans in public office. These statistics are the far-reaching ripples of one man's legacy.
Carl's legacy was to show the black people of America that they were part of America, that they could be part of the democratic process, that they could share in the goals that all of us have aspired to, and that their condition did not have to be a permanent legacy of slavery and subservience to the white man.
He has provided history, some significance that probably will live on in infamy in this country, in not only being the first black mayor of a major city, but providing opportunity, leadership, providing roles for other blacks to follow, and for enhancing opportunities for the blacks throughout this country.
You know, nobody went out and made me run for mayor, man. I wanted the opportunity to, as I often said, you can remember during that time, I said, give me an opportunity to show you how government should run, what it should do for its people. They gave me the chance, but along with it came all of the other things. So it was difficult. I believe that the people of this city are aware that this renaissance must start with the election of a new mayor. A mayor who believes in Cleveland. A mayor who believes in the potential of people to rise to challenge. A mayor who has the capacity to enlist the best talents in our community in a crusade for a better Cleveland. This is my program. This is my promise. I seek to serve all of the people with dedication and with devotion.